I'm going to be reviewing Everything That Rises Must Converge by Flannery O'Connor. The story follows a young man named Julian in the 1960s in the South at the time of desegregation. Julian is a college graduate who has dreams of becoming a writer, but instead he sells typewriters and still lives at home with his mother, Miss Chesney, who is a widow. Miss Chesney has been told that she has high blood pressure and that she needs to lose weight by her doctor. So she joins a weight loss class at the Y for women. Um, every Wednesday night, she attends this class, and Julian must accompany her because Miss Chesney is from a different time and she is still prejudiced. And during this time of desegregation, African Americans are now allowed to ride the bus, and Miss Chesney refuses to ride alone. So this particular Wednesday night, she is getting ready for her class, and Julian is frustrated waiting for her, angry that he needs to bring her. Miss Chesney's getting ready. She's putting on high heels, she's putting on gloves, and she has a fancy new hat that she bought the day before for $7.50. As she's getting ready, she realizes Julian's frustration and she starts saying to him, maybe I need to return the hat. It costs too much. For $7.50, I can pay a bill. Julian is very frustrated. He tells her, no, it's fine. Keep the hat. Just keep the hat. Let's go. They're finally on their way out of the door. As they're walking to the bus stop, Miss Chesney starts telling him that you need to remember your roots. You need to know where you came from. There's nothing more important than where you came from. Once again, Julian is getting frustrated. He's getting angry with his mother. She starts talking about her grandfather, who was a slave owner. He had a big plantation, beautiful home with over 200 slaves. She is proud of her last name. She's proud of where she came from, how she was raised, and her heritage. Julian, once again frustrated, gets angry with his mother and starts telling her, this is a new time, you need to get over that, slaves are no longer. They get on the bus, and Miss Chesney sits down next to, it's only two people on the bus. Miss Chesney sits down next to a white woman, and she's telling the woman, I'm glad that we're alone, meaning I'm glad that there are no African Americans on the bus. Julian sits across. He's frustrated. He starts daydreaming about ways to get back at his mother. He starts thinking of ways that maybe he can befriend African Americans, but he's only thinking of upper class African Americans, maybe a lawyer or a professor. So at this time, a tall African American man enters the bus. He's well dressed. He has on a suit. He's wearing a suitcase. Julian thinks, perfect, this is my time. So he moves his spot, sits next to the African American man, and asks him for a light. The African American man pays him no mind, gives him some matches. Julian, embarrassed, realizes, I don't have any cigarettes. He was just trying to start conversation. The story goes on that the tall man gets off of the bus and another woman enters the bus. Tall black woman with her young son. Carver is his name. They enter the bus, and Julian is thinking this is the perfect opportunity. Hopefully the woman sits next to his mother, Miss Chesney, and that will teach her a lesson. It would be the greatest irony to him. So at that time, the woman instead sits next to Julian, and her son, Carver, about 4 years old, he's very well dressed as well, wearing a suit with a nice hat and a feather coming from it. So Julian is thinking how ironic this is. It appears as though the mothers have traded places. That Julian is sitting next to the African American mother, and Carver, the young son, is playing peekaboo with Miss Chesney. Miss Chesney, although she is still prejudiced, she likes all children. She thinks all children are cute, and particularly she believes that black children are the cutest. So Julian, once again frustrated, he cannot wait to get off of the bus. He pulls the cord because they finally get to their stop. He's excited to get off of the bus. All of this can be behind them. And then all of a sudden he realizes that this is the African American woman's stop as well. She gets off of the bus first with little Carver, and he starts getting scared that Miss Chesney, his mother, is going to start looking for a coin. She always likes to give children nickels. So he starts trying to take away the purse from his mother, so that she would not be able to give the boy a nickel, but she refuses. She gets off the bus, she starts digging through her purse, and she finds no nickel, but does find a shiny penny. She starts yelling out to Carver, the little boy, little boy, I have a shiny brand new penny for you. Julian keeps telling her, no, mother, don't do it, don't do it. Well, the African American mother turns around in anger, comes back towards Miss Chesney, takes her big, large handbag, and hits Miss Chesney over the head with it. Miss Chesney is knocked down. She's on the ground. The African American mother and Carver go away, and now Julian comes up to his mother. He's very satisfied with this. He's happy that Miss Chesney is finally going to learn a lesson. He goes to her as she's on the ground. He's telling her, you see, this is what you get. This is what you deserve. This is not just on behalf of this mother. This is on behalf of the African American race. You need to stop being so condescending, and goes on chastising her as though she were a child. He tells her, get up before someone passes and sees you on the ground. He goes to help her up, and she goes in the opposite direction of where her weight loss class is. He starts following her, and he's saying, why are you going in this direction? Are we not going to the Y? And she just keeps mumbling, home, home. Well, he grabs her by the arm in frustration once again, grabs her by the arm, turns her around, and in that moment, he looks in her eyes and he sees that something is wrong, something has happened. One pupil is blown and the other pupil is very small. He realizes that she's searching his face, looking for some recognition. She starts asking, go get Grandpa, go get Caroline, which was her African American nurse that raised her back in her youth. And one eye starts rolling in the back as the other is fixed, still on Julian. He realizes that something has happened. It appears as though she has had a stroke, and she dies in that moment. And Julian has regret, and he starts saying, my sweetheart, mother, come back to me, please. He realizes the error of his ways, how wrong he was to his mother for all this time. The moral of the story is, the theme of the story is, do not be prejudiced. Although Miss Chesney was prejudiced, she was raised in a different time. That is all she knew. Julian, as much as he had all this anguish, animosity, and resentment towards his mother for her prejudice, he was also judging her. He also wanted to make acquaintance and be friends with the African Americans, but he only chose, in his mind, African Americans that were well-dressed, from the upper class, not the normal, everyday African Americans. Another theme in the story is about suffering. Miss Chesney says many times in the beginning of the story how much she has suffered, how much she has struggled to give Julian a good life. She has paid for his college education. He has a roof over his head. And she said at one point in the story that to her, suffering was fun. He had resentment towards that, and I bet if you asked the African American mother if she had suffered and if it was fun to her, she would not think it was. Another theme that comes up is of society and class. So once again, Julian wants to make acquaintance with African Americans, but he only thinks of the upper class African Americans. They live in a small neighborhood, little apartment, old homes that at one point, Miss Chesney was very proud to live in that neighborhood because it was the neighborhood to be in at that time. But now that is no longer. As far as Miss Chesney, as she's getting ready for her class, she's putting on her high heels and her gloves and her fancy hat. That, by the way, the African-American mom was wearing the same hat when she rode on the bus, which was another point of irony that Julian found very amusing. And Miss Chesney, once she realized that the mother was wearing the same hat, she also found amusing. So, theme is to not be prejudiced, do not judge. They have a lot of points of class and society and suffering. That is Everything That Rises Must Converge by Flannery O'Connor. Thank you.